Prior to September 2024, to some, the Islamic Republic of Iran was the leader of the axis of resistance, while most others in the world saw it as a state sponsor of terrorism. Tehran held a political stranglehold over Baghdad, weaving a web of militias, money, and manipulation to sow chaos in the Middle East. It is one of the world's most sanctioned countries. It built sprawling influence without a single modern fighter jet or advanced tank. But now, that grip is slipping fast. Iraq, once Iran's loyal ally, is breaking free, and Iran is too weak to try holding on to keep it. This is the epic saga of Iran and Iraq's complex relationship, a story of war, betrayal, and a shocking collapse that's reshaping the region. To understand why Iran and Iraq are drifting apart today, we need to rewind to 1980. This is when a brutal war set the stage for their modern relationship. The Iran-Iraq War wasn't just a conflict, it was a defining moment that shaped both nations' destinies. At its heart was a long-running border dispute over the Shatt al-Arab, a vital waterway connecting the Persian Gulf to Iraq's oil fields, and later a revolution. In 1975, Iraq reluctantly ceded control of parts of the waterway to Iran under the Algiers Agreement. But when Iran's 1979 revolution brought Ayatollah Khomeini to power, Iraq's Sunni leader, Saddam Hussein, got nervous. Saddam feared Iran's new Shia-led regime would inspire Iraq's Shia majority to rise up and threaten his rule. So, in 1980, while Iran was reeling from its revolution and trying to recover, Saddam saw an opportunity. Iraq invaded, tearing up the Algiers Agreement and aiming to seize Iran's oil-rich Khuzestan province. At first, Iraq's military blitz was a success, capturing swaths of territory quickly. But Iran, once it regrouped, fought back fiercely. By 1982, Iran had reclaimed its land, and the war settled into a brutal stalemate. The UN tried to broker peace with Resolution 514, calling for a ceasefire, but Iran, smelling victory, ignored it and launched a counter-invasion. Alarmed Arab states like Saudi Arabia and Western powers, including the US, provided billions in aid to Saddam, fearing Iran's growing power. Saddam used chemical weapons against Iranian troops and civilians, a grim chapter that still haunts Iranians today. By 1988, after 8 years of bloodshed and over 1 million lives lost, both sides were exhausted. A UN-brokered ceasefire ended the fighting, with diplomatic ties restored in 1990. But the scars of this war would shape Iran's obsession with controlling Iraq. Then, US-led invasion. Fast forward to 2003. US-led invasion of Iraq changed everything. Saddam's regime collapsed, and the US hoped to transform Iraq into a pro-American democracy. It didn't go as planned. Iraq plunged into sectarian chaos, with Shia and Sunni factions tearing the country apart. Iran rose due to a power vacuum. By 2011, the US withdrew, leaving behind a fractured nation and a massive power vacuum. Iran stepped in, under the leadership of Qassem Soleimani, head of the elite Quds Force. Iran poured billions into building the axis of resistance, a network of proxy militias stretching from Tehran to Beirut. In Iraq, Iran backed over a dozen political parties and paramilitary groups, like the Popular Mobilization Forces (PMF), which became more powerful than Iraq's own army. These militias didn't just fight ISIS. They attacked US troops, harassed Israel, and secured a land corridor linking Iran to its ally, Bashar al-Assad's Syria, and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Why did Iran want Iraq so badly? First, to ensure no future Iraqi government would threaten them again, like Saddam did in 1980. Second, to use Iraq as a key node in its proxy network, projecting power across the region. Third, to dodge crippling Western sanctions by using Iraq as a middleman for oil exports and accessing foreign currency through Iraq's banks. By 2018, even the US Army admitted Iran was the only real winner of the Iraq War, with Tehran's influence infiltrating Iraq's politics, military, and economy. Iran's strategy was a masterclass in patience. While sanctions choked its economy, Iran avoided direct confrontation, following Ayatollah Khomeini's no war, no peace doctrine. Instead, it used proxies like Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, and Hamas in Gaza to keep its enemies, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the US, on edge. In 2019, when tensions flared after Trump's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal, Iran's Houthis struck Saudi Arabia's Abqaiq oil fields, slashing global oil supply by 5%. Iran denied involvement, but the message was clear: we can hit you without firing a shot from our soil. In the late 2010s, cracks began to appear. Iran's iron grip on Iraq started to weaken, and young Iraqis, fed up with Tehran's overbearing influence, took to the streets in massive protests. They saw Iran's militias as foreign puppets, meddling in Iraq's politics and dragging the country into Iran's fights with the US and Israel. By 2023, the tide was turning. Iraq's government, led by Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani and his Coordination Framework coalition, once Iran's staunch allies began distancing itself from Tehran. This shift became clear during Iran's brief conflict with Israel and the US in mid-2025, when Iran needed support, but Iraq offered only lukewarm rhetoric. Even Iran-backed militias, who are usually eager to attack US bases, stayed quiet. Why the cold shoulder? First, public pressure. Iraqis, especially the youth, resent Iran's dominance and fear being pulled into a wider war. With parliamentary elections looming in November 2025, even pro-Iran politicians don't want to look like Tehran's lapdogs. Second, Iran's aura of invincibility has faded. Its proxies, like Hezbollah and Hamas, have been battered by Israel. The October 7, 2023, Hamas attack on Israel, initially seen as a bold move, backfired spectacularly. Israel's relentless response crushed Hamas's military capabilities and later crippled Hezbollah in a devastating 2024 campaign. Iraq's pro-Iran factions, watching their allies fall, realized Tehran might not be the reliable protector they thought. Iraq's government has even made quiet concessions to the US, signaling a shift. In January 2025, Baghdad dropped an arrest warrant for Donald Trump, released a Princeton researcher held by Hezbollah, and passed a budget amendment long sought by Iraq's pro-US Kurds. These moves show Iraq hedging its bets, aligning closer to Washington as Iran's star dims. Iran's miscalculation. The fall of the Exisirans troubles go beyond Iraq. Its entire axis of resistance is crumbling, and it all traces back to one catastrophic misstep: Hamas's October 7, 2023, attack on Israel. Iran initially cheered as Israel faced global backlash amid deaths in Gaza, but they misread their enemy. Israel, guided by the words "I prefer to stay alive and be criticized than be sympathized," decided enough was enough. The attack gave Israel a clear mission: dismantle Iran's proxy network and break its strategic ring of fire. Israel struck hard and fast. In April 2024, it bombed Iran's consulate in Damascus, killing two Iranian generals. Iran's response, a telegraphed missile and drone attack, was easily intercepted. Then, in July, Israel assassinated Hamas's political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, and Hezbollah's top commander Fuad Shukr in Beirut. Iran's no war, no peace strategy was unraveling. By September, Israel launched a shock and awe campaign against Hezbollah, using pager attacks and airstrikes to decapitate its leadership, including its very charismatic and long-time leader Qassem Nasrallah. A battered Hezbollah signed a one-sided ceasefire in November, giving Israel permission to strike at any violation. The final blow came in December 2024, when Bashar al-Assad's regime in Syria collapsed, severing Iran's land bridge to Lebanon. Israel seized the moment, expanding its buffer zone in Syria and destroying the country's air defenses and strategic weapons. With Hezbollah and Syria neutralized, Iran stood alone. On June 13, 2025, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a massive assault on Iran's nuclear and military sites and personnel. Mossad operatives sabotaged Iran's defenses, and 200 fighter jets obliterated key targets.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan.
The U.S. joined with Operation Midnight Hammer, bombing Iran's nuclear facilities. Iran's ballistic missile response caused some damage, but its air defenses were no match for Israel's F-35s. About that, Iran isn't fighting tooth and nail to keep Iraq in its orbit. Its proxy network, once run by the Quds Force, is in disarray and deactivated. Also, Iran's leaders are facing a crisis at home. Ordinary Iranians, struggling under sanctions and poverty, resent the billions spent on proxies like Hezbollah while they go hungry. In late 2023, crowds in Tehran chanted for Palestinian flags to be removed at a football match, a rare public rebuke of the regime's priorities. Sensing this unrest, Ayatollah Khomeini has pivoted to nationalism, a risky move for a regime that once shunned it. Murals of Persian heroes now adorn Tehran's streets, and Khomeini himself requested a nationalist anthem at a public event in July 2025. This shift signals a retreat from the dream of a transnational Shia empire, as Iran tries to shore up domestic support amid growing isolation. For Iraq, this is a chance to reclaim its sovereignty, but the road ahead is bumpy. Pro-Iran militias still wield power, and Iraq's politics remain fragile. Yet, with elections approaching and public sentiment turning against Tehran, Iraqis are betting on a future free from Iran's shadow. Conclusion: A new Middle East. The story of Iran and Iraq is a saga of ambition, betrayal, and seismic shifts. Iran's grand strategy, built on proxies, patience, and a dream of regional dominance, once seemed unstoppable. But one miscalculation, sparked by Hamas's October 7th attack, brought it crashing down. As Iraq pulls away and Iran retreats into nationalism, the Middle East is at a crossroads. Can Iraq seize this moment to forge its own path? Will Iran's regime survive? Only time will tell. But one thing's certain: the balance of power has shifted, and the region will never be the same. Leave your thoughts on the Iran-Iraq relationship below. Click the like button. Sit and subscribe.